6ix9ine, one of the most controversial rappers of the last decade, known for his rainbow-colored hair, his aggressive personality, and a career built on controversy and almost just as much as his music. And at one point, it felt like he was everywhere, breaking streaming records, starting feuds with some of the biggest names in hip-hop, and becoming one of the fastest rising artists in the world. But behind the fame, there was a completely different story unfolding. One involving gangs, multiple arrests, and federal investigations, and a criminal case that shocked the entire music industry. A case that would eventually send 6ix9ine to prison and forever change the way people looked at him and his whole career. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into 6ix9ine's criminal history, from his early legal troubles to the federal racketeering case that made the headlines around the world, and what happened after his release. But before we get into all that 6ix9ine talk, I want to wish a warm welcome to everybody who's new and coming back to KDJ Uncovers. And if you're messing with the content I've been posting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and show some love. Now, to understand how 6ix9ine ended up at the center of the biggest criminal cases in modern hip-hop, you have to go back to the very beginning, before the rainbow hair, before the millions of followers, and before the chart-topping hits. Daniel Hernandez was growing up in Brooklyn, New York, raised in a working-class neighborhood. His early life was marked by financial struggles. When he was a teenager, his stepfather was killed, a traumatic event that had a major impact on his life. And afterward, he happened to leave school because of it. He worked several jobs to support his family, while also starting to get into the music game. As he started releasing songs online, his loud personality and distinctive image quickly separated him from thousands of other artists trying to make it in the rap game. He understood something that many rappers didn't. In the age of social media, attention was everything. Whether people loved him or hated him, they were talking about him. And 6ix9ine knew exactly how to keep the spotlight on himself. As 6ix9ine's online presence continued to grow, his image was becoming impossible to ignore. The rainbow-colored hair, the face tattoos, the loud personality, and everything about him was designed to stand out. And it worked. Whether people were making fun of him or becoming fans, everyone seemed to know who he was. And then in late 2017, everything changed when he released GUMMO. The song exploded almost overnight. Its aggressive energy, catchy hook, and viral music video that helped turn 6ix9ine from underground artist into one of the hottest new names in hip-hop. Within months, he was putting up millions of streams, and his music videos were attracting massive audiences, and labels were starting to see him as one of rap's fastest rising stars. But while his music career was just taking off, his public image was becoming even more controversial. Because 6ix9ine didn't just use his music to get attention. He constantly challenged other rappers online, posting videos, starting arguments, calling people out by their name. It seemed like there was always another feud that had him involved. Some people believed it was all part of his marketing strategy. Others thought he was taking things way too far. Either way, it kept him in the headlines, and for a while, the attention only made him bigger. Around the same time, 6ix9ine became associated with members of the Nine Trey Gangsters, a subset of the Blood Street Gang. According to later federal prosecutors, their relationship became a major part of the criminal investigation that followed after. As his fame grew, so did concerns from law enforcement. Federal authorities spent months investigating alleged criminal activity connected to members of the group. And then, in November 2018, everything came crashing down. Federal agents arrested 6ix9ine alongside several other individuals. The charges included racketeering conspiracy and other serious federal offenses. The arrest shocked the entire music industry. Just weeks earlier, he had been one of the biggest names in rap, and now he was facing charges that carried the possibility of spending decades in prison, if convicted. For the first time, it seemed like 6ix9ine's career might be over before it had truly begun. Sitting in federal custody, 6ix9ine had one of the biggest decisions of his life to make: fight the case in court or cooperate with prosecutors. And the decision he ultimately made will become one of the most controversial moments in modern hip-hop. Facing the possibility of spending decades in federal prison, 6ix9ine made a decision that would completely change the course of his life. and his reputation in hip-hop forever, and initially pleaded not guilty. He later entered a guilty plea to several federal charges as a part of cooperation agreement with the prosecutors. In return, he agreed to provide information and testify in court against other defendants in the case. When news of that decision became public, the reaction was immediate. Within hip-hop, the word snitch began following him everywhere. Fans, artists, media outlets, and almost everyone had an opinion. Some people argued that he was doing what anyone would do if they were facing decades behind bars, and others believed that he had broken one of the biggest unwritten rules of the street. Don't you ever snitch in the court of law. Were comments he was receiving all over social media for his decision to cooperate with law enforcement and the prosecutors. Then, the trial began, and over several days, 6ix9ine took the witness stand and answered questions under the oath. During his testimony, he described how he became involved with members of the Nine Trey Gangsters and spoke about incidents that prosecutors said were connected to the racketeering case. His testimony became headline news. Major media outlets covered it day after day. Clips and courtroom sketches flooded social media. Even people who had never listened to his music were suddenly starting to follow the case. It was unlike anything hip-hop had seen in years. One of rap's biggest stars was now one of the government's key witnesses in a federal gang prosecution. And eventually, the court handed down its sentence. Although prosecutors had outlined a much longer potential prison term at the beginning of the case, the judge considered several factors, including 6ix9ine's cooperation. He was sentenced to a significantly shorter prison term than many people had expected. Not long afterward, because of concerns surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic and his medical condition, the remainder of his sentence was allowed to be served under home confinement. It marked the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. Once he was released, everyone wanted to know the same thing. Could 6ix9ine ever make a comeback? And at first, it looked like the answer might be yes. He returned to social media almost immediately, released new music, and once again, he managed to capture millions of views just within days. It seemed like despite everything that had happened, people were still curious. But over time, the momentum began to fade. The controversy that once helped fuel his whole career started to overshadow the music itself, and some artists refused to work with him altogether, and many fans had sadly already moved on. And while he continued to make more songs and release new music, it became increasingly difficult to recreate the level of success he had achieved before his arrest. Looking back today, 6ix9ine's story remains one of the most unusual in modern hip-hop. He went from an unknown artist in Brooklyn to one of the biggest names in rap, to the center of one of the highest profile federal criminal cases involving a rapper. His rise was incredibly fast. His fall was just as dramatic. And whether people remember him for the music, the controversy, or the courtroom testimony, his story has become one of the most talked about chapters in recent rap history. And with that, we've come to the end of the 6ix9ine video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and comment down below what you want to see next. And with that, KDJ is out.